Welcome back to BrainWaves, or welcome if this is your first time here. This is the podcast where we try to understand why we think, feel and react the way that we do, and how it's affecting our mental health. Today I want to talk about something that I think a lot of people do, and it can feel really constant, like it's always there in the background. And again, it's not always obvious. And that is negative self-talk. The way we speak to ourselves, the way we react to mistakes, the pressure we put on ourselves to be better. Because sometimes the harshest voice we hear is our own. And I don't mean just the occasional thought, but when it feels like it's your default. The way your mind automatically reacts to things. Like, you make a mistake and before you even have time to think, it's, why did I do that? That was so stupid. If something doesn't go perfectly, you might think, I should be better than this. And it happens so often that we don't even question it. It feels like the truth, like that's just how we are. But if you think about it, it is really quite intense. Because if someone else spoke to you like that, you probably wouldn't accept it. But when it comes from you, it just becomes part of your everyday thinking. And what we don't realise is that that voice can actually be really harsh and exhausting because you're carrying it around with you all day. And over time, that will shape how you see yourself. It affects your confidence, how you show up, how much pressure you feel. And I think what makes it harder is that when you've been doing it for such a long time, it doesn't feel like a habit. It feels like your personality. But it's not. It's something that you've learned. Maybe you grew up in an environment where mistakes were pointed out. You felt like you had to get things right, or you were quite self-aware from a young age. And over time, these things become your internal voice. Sometimes it can come from pressure, wanting to improve, wanting to do well, wanting to avoid failure. So maybe your mind thinks, if I'm hard on myself, I'll do better. But most of the time, it just makes things heavier. It doesn't motivate you, it drains you. But anything learned can be unlearned. Not instantly, but gradually. So instead of trying to completely change everything at once, I want to talk through a simple way to start shifting it, especially if it feels like it's something that you do all the time. Step 1. Catch it in real time. When something is automatic, you usually don't notice it until after it's happened. But before you can change anything, you have to become aware of it. So the first step is to recognise it, even if it's a second later. Start paying attention to how you speak to yourself, the way that you react to small mistakes, the tone of your inner voice. You might stop and think to yourself, okay, that was quite harsh. And that's enough. That's all that is needed at this stage. You don't need to fix it yet. Just recognising it is progress. Catching yourself in a negative thought, that's the most important step. Step 2. Don't fight it. Pause instead. A lot of the time people try to shut these thoughts down. But that can feel really frustrating, especially if they just keep coming back. So instead of fighting it, just pause. Let the thought be there without immediately adding more to it. Because negative self-talk often builds itself. So you can ask yourself things like, is that actually fair? Would I say that to someone else? Most of the time, the answer is no. And that can help us to see that the thought isn't as solid as it felt. So interrupting that pattern, even slightly, it can make a difference. Step 3. Change your response, but not the thought. This is really important. You don't have to stop the thought from appearing. You just have to adjust how you respond to it. So instead of agreeing with it or building on it, you can respond differently, almost like you're talking back to it. For example, if you think, I've completely messed this up, try instead, okay, that didn't go how I wanted it to, but that's okay. The thought might still show up, but it doesn't get to take over. It's not about pretending everything is okay. It's about not making it worse for yourself. Step 4. Lower the standard, not your worth. A lot of negative self-talk can come from pressure, wanting to do everything perfectly. So when something doesn't go right, you might feel like you've failed. But sometimes the problem isn't you. It's the expectations you're holding yourself to. So instead of thinking, I should have done that perfectly, try instead, it's okay that that wasn't perfect. It doesn't mean that you don't care, it just means you're being realistic. Step 5. Practice a neutral voice. You don't need to jump straight into it's amazing or everything is great, because that is just unrealistic. Instead, aim for neutral. Instead of I'm terrible at this, you might say I'm still figuring this out. It feels more believable, more balanced. And that makes it easier to stick with. Step 6. Repeat, even when it feels pointless. This is the part I think most people struggle with, because at first it won't feel like it's working. But it's the part that matters the most, because one time won't change the habit. The thoughts will still come. But every time you catch it, pause, respond differently, you're weakening that old pattern and you're building a new one. It just takes time. And something I think is really important to remember is that you're not trying to become someone who never has negative thoughts, because every human being does. But you are becoming someone who isn't being controlled by them. And that is a big difference. Because over time, the harsh voice will get quieter. Not because it disappears, but because you stop feeding it and you start supporting yourself instead. And when you're not constantly criticising yourself, things can feel a lot lighter. And if you are someone that has been stuck in this pattern for a while, just know it makes sense that it feels automatic, but it doesn't have to stay that way. Something that I would love to achieve with this podcast is to make it feel like a space where we can share these things. So if negative self-talk is something that you have found yourself struggling with, or if you've found ways that help you shift it, please feel free to message me on Instagram. I'd genuinely love to hear from you. And it might really help someone else as well. Because a lot of the time we think we're the only ones dealing with this, but we're not. If you managed to take anything positive away from this episode, I'm really glad you're here, and I hope you'll be here for the next one.